There you are. Hello. How are you, beautiful?
I am good. How are you?
Oh,
Just getting
fantastic.
comfortable.
Huh?
I'm just getting comfortable
Yes,
here.
please get comfortable for the next 40 minutes or so. It's Canada, right?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
the way,
London, Ontario, Canada.
all the way from Canada, Ontario, Canada. Are you born and raised there, or uh
Yes, I was. I'm just putting this so I don't keep moving around.
okay.
All right. Wah! Still hear me?
I can see you. I can
There
hear
we go.
you. Yep.
Awesome. Yes, I was born in Thompson, Manitoba. So that's like way up north.
Okay.
Like below, we have Celsius here, so it would get to -60.
Ooh.
Yeah, which would probably be like what's your freezing point in Fahrenheit?
Um, is it below 30? I think below 30
So yeah,
is freezing,
so
something like that. Yeah.
okay, so imagine 0 Fahrenheit.
And how often does that happen?
Every
Oh,
winter.
well, yeah. It's 32. Ariana says 32. So it's 32. Had somebody got
Yeah.
to help me out here. Awesome. All right. So
You got some good people.
yes, yes. All right. So people will join in and out. That's how it goes with these. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna get started because this is gonna turn into an IGTV. So those that join can pick up wherever they want to pick up. So we're talking today about how to quiet your critter brain, and I have with me the fabulous Jen Slay. I get that you go by Jen. If it should be Jennifer, let me know. But Jen Slay, who has 20 years doing many different things, including as a social worker. She's a motivational speaker. She's a trainer. She's a certified life coach, and she is an author. On top of that, I got my notes, so don't worry about it. On top of
All
that,
right.
she was chosen as one of the recipients of the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal in 2013. So I would love to hear about that sometimes. That's pretty impressive. But receive that for your community work, all the great work you've done, and have had a lot of other successes, including in appearing featured in magazines. But more recently in the years, you also co-created the All Women Lead, LEAD. So I wanted to kind of turn it over to you to tell us a little bit more about that, and that'll be a great segue into our topic, I believe.
Okay, sure. Well, All Women Lead, myself and my co-creator, Melissa Maloney, we were talking about women's conferences. And we were talking about how, we've gone to some great ones and we've gone to some not so great ones. But we would love to be able to go to a conference and have some really practical tools. When you walk away, you're like, I know exactly what I'm going to do next, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we said, well, since we can't find it, let's just create it. And that's what we did.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah, so so what we did, we had lunch and learns leading up to it. So the late fall of last year into the winter, we'd have monthly lunch and learns where we talk about different subjects like emotional intelligence, how to leverage emotional intelligence and stuff like that. And then on March 11th, we had our conference with nearly 200 women in attendance. And then the next day, the world shut
COVID.
down.
COVID.
I was like, oh my God. We were so blessed to have been able to do it, but nobody got sick. Everyone was fine. So
good.
Woo-hoo.
So hopefully we'll get those going back up at some point, right? Or however you can do it. Yeah, we need stuff like that. Okay, so well, I want to just, you've had a very successful background. What got you into life coaching? And then we can people don't leave. We can get into the topic. But what got you into life coaching? And then also share how people can reach you, connect with you.
Okay. So it's funny because I didn't know anything about life coaching. I became a social worker. And then a friend of mine, he was doing life coaching. And he said, Jen, I need to practice. Do you mind if I practice with you? I said, sure. And so I practiced and I loved it. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I want my practice to be like this, like when I'm working with people. And so, you say that and then years go by and you don't actually do it. And then I went through my own difficulties in my life, which seems to be when we, when we do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was coming out of or I was in the midst of the divorce and just feeling down on myself and stuff like that, I decided, you know what? I'm going to start studying successful people, successful being people who are inherently happy and
Mm-hmm.
doing well and doing good things for the world. And I decided, well, I am going to become a life coach on top of my social work so that I can help people to deal with their ish and then go meet their goals.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love that.
so that's how it started. About 5 years ago, I became certified, and here I am.
Here you are. And it's wonderful because you can connect to your own life and help somebody with theirs and their journey, because you're still on yours and they're on theirs, so you kind of on it together. But you have to go through some things sometimes to know, hey, this is meant for me to do, and this is how I can serve. So glad that we're in that circle together, sister. Seriously glad.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So we wanted to talk about something that's very near and dear to both our hearts, and those who will join in and who will join later and in and out. But that important thing between our ears, known as the brain and the mind in there, and what we hear, or maybe what we don't hear, and how to manage specifically that negative voice. And I've been watching you and the things that you're posting. You're very much out there. You do a lot of videos, and it's like what's going on for that day. And you've got some great messages out there. So what do you want to share? What can we get into? Real talk, keep it raw, keep it real around. What's up with this? What's up with this? What are we doing here?
Well, you know what? Our life right now is a product of everything before. Our thoughts, our habits of how we think, just our, I don't want to call it inability, but some people just don't know themselves, like haven't taken the time to just know themselves. And I can say that because I was one of them just up to a few years ago. Like I remember a gentleman had asked me out on a date, and he said, okay, so what do you would like to do? And I sat there and I was like, I don't know. I really did not know, because I spent so many years just doing, like just making sure kids are here, making sure parents are okay, making sure my sister, making sure my friends, making sure my career. And it's like, where am I in all of that? And who am I now? Like, I'm no longer wife. So what does that make? And it was just like,
Yes.
So, and I think we need to spend that time to get to know ourselves. Like what? So when you want to get to know someone, what do you do?
I ask a lot of questions. I do my research. I spend time with them. Right? I spend time with them.
Exactly. And when's the last time you've spent time with yourself? Like, I'm not saying you, but just in general, like, when's the last time that we actually just spend time by ourselves, take ourselves out for dinner, take ourselves out to a movie?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Do things that we like to do for ourselves, by ourselves. Because the thing is, when you're with somebody else, sometimes they can influence what you really want to do.
Yeah, that's true. That's
true.
Like,
if you go to a movie by yourself, you're going to go see the movie that you want to see, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's just taking that time to get to know you.
Yes. So that's first and foremost, get to know you. And when you're not getting to know you, what's coming up there? Because sometimes we're afraid to know what's going to come up when we really get to know who we are. Just that quiet time. Like we talk a lot in life coaching about meditating on things, or meditating and really spending time. A lot more things come up that are insightful when you quiet down, maybe not fully, but when you're spending real time with yourself. That could be scary if you've never really done that. That's huge.
Yeah, totally. And I think for women, because I work mainly with women, and with women, I know that we spend so much time doing, because we don't want to face some of the things that are inside. And so when it's time to face those things and to admit, you know, I'm here because of choices I made. I can't be blaming everybody else. I got to look at myself here. That can be a hard pill to swallow sometimes.
Yes. Yes.
It's not something that we necessarily want to readily admit to ourselves. And so it can be a scary process, especially if you've gone through certain traumas in your life, you know?
Yeah.
And there's things that you just don't want to remember, you don't want to recall, you just want to push it away. And if you stop and think, then it kind of floods. We call it flooding in social. And so people don't want to do that. And so that's why they keep themselves busy and just run, run, run.
Yeah.
But we've got to spend that time. We have to become very self-aware so that we can make the choices to manage that inner critic itself.
Yeah. The self-aware, recognizing what it is and what we're doing, like you said, admitting. So recognizing, admitting, declaring, and surrendering, because it is what it is. Like if you're running away from yourself, recognize that. What are you running away from? Admitting that, declaring what the situation is. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm not good enough. All those things that you tell ourselves.
Yes.
So let's get into what we're telling ourselves. So we talked about let's how do we manage the negative voices in our head so that we can move forward? So what are some of the techniques, strategies you work with your clients on to do that?
Well, one of the things, there's many, but one of them is hearing that voice, right? And saying, okay, what is it saying to me? Recognizing what it's saying to you, right? Realizing its impact. Like how is it making me feel? And then deciding, okay, how can I see this from another perspective, right? Separating that fact from fiction.
Yes.
Because I can say stuff like, oh man, I'm in the worst shape in the world, blah, 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 I'm no good, blah, that voice. But then when you go out and you're playing with your kids or whatever, well, the fact is you can go out there, you can play, you can rumble and tumble and all of that. You're not in that bad shape. Okay, so what do I have to do to make myself maybe feel a little bit better about how I feel, right? And then you start thinking solution as opposed to keep beating yourself up. Because what's the point of beating yourself up, right? Right now I'm feeling I'm about 15, 20 pounds overweight. I can sit here and go, or I can say, all right, it's summertime, it's beautiful, let me get outside, let me do some stuff, let me have some fun, and just embrace what I am right now,
Yes. Yeah, and that's embrace and love what you are right now. And how do you love yourself? It's what you're...
So, yeah. So the answer to that question is to separate fact from fiction, right? Whatever that voice is saying to you, is there any validity to it? And if there is, being able to say, okay, I don't like this aspect about me, so what can I do to change it? Because we're never in a position where we can't change our behaviors. Right. We have that power within us to do. It's just up to us whether we're going to do the work to change it.
That's huge, is what you just said, the work to change it. And it's scary. And are you really ready to change? Because you can say you are, but your actions say something differently. So what's your experience with that one?
Yeah. Very true. I have a course that I run. It's called Slay Your Inner Critic, and we talk about your values, right? Your values and your beliefs. And one of the things I say is, okay, so I have often said that I am very health conscious, right? However, I will eat chocolate cake every day of the week if I can. So my value and my action, are they lining up? Nope. Right? And so I have to admit that to myself and say, okay, if I really want to change, then instead of 7 days a week, maybe change it to 3 or 4. And then even less. And then even, so it's just
until you don't want it anymore. It's the mindset, right? The mindset. I was preparing my featured post and I was like, you get the mindset right, everything else will follow in place. But it starts with, you know, like you said, facts versus fiction. What is the truth versus what is the story, the reality you're telling yourself? And like you said earlier, noticing it, catching it. Like I probably believe that's the hardest thing to do if you're constantly rushing, because your brain processes millions of data just like that, and you don't even realize all the thoughts you've had, and then throw in that negative thought that you programmed your brain to have, and you don't even consider it negative, and you, because what the critter brain is designed to keep you safe, right?
Yeah, it's true. Like 90, I learned this statistic earlier this year or last year. 95% of what we do in a day is influenced by our subconscious mind. And our subconsciousness is developed by the habits that we do each day, what we read, who we surround ourselves with, what we listen to, all of those things impact our subconsciousness. So if we want to change our outcomes, if we want to change our behavior, we have to change what's going in and feeding our subconsciousness.
Yes.
So that there can be a marriage between the consciousness and subconsciousness.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, and again, it goes down to awareness. What are you listening to? What are you reading? Who are you hanging out with? All of those things.
I'm speechless because I'm like, yeah, that's it. But I mean, and sometimes people don't know this, or it's the, you know, it's like, it's not rocket science, right? But we always say knowing is one thing, but putting into action is another, because when you actually experience something, you're living it, and then you're finding out that's either the true you or that's the new you that you could be becoming if you just slowly take steps in that direction consistently, without, like you said, beating yourself up or feeling like you got to do it all at once. Because I think that's where people get discouraged. They try something, they go all in. I'm gonna go at this 100%, like, you know, persistent, consistent, and committed is right. And then
the brain loves predictability.
mm-hmm.
The brain's job is to protect us and make sure that we see another day. That's its job,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So if it knows that if you do a certain activity and it knows what the outcome is, even if it's not positive, it's going to steer you in that direction because that's what it knows. It knows what the outcome is, as opposed to trying something new and not knowing what the outcome is going to be.
That's it. That's what
right?
That's the nugget right there, is you're supposed to have the experience in the event and not know the outcome, not try to predict it, not try to be in control. It's supposed to be a surprise. It's supposed to be, but maybe is it, you know, like you said, the brain, maybe it starts as children. We're trained to somehow be in control, like do this and then you will have that. You go to school, you get good grades, you're gonna get into college. You get into college, you spend all this money in college, you know, and then when you get out, you're gonna get the job of your dreams. Not true, by the way, but you hope for that. You're looking for this predictable outcome, because if it's not the outcome you want, you're like, nah, I'm not even gonna do it. Versus experiencing it. Experiencing is knowing, and you know through your body, not through here. You know what I mean? So how do we get people more along that journey and that confidence level to not try to control or predict the outcome?
So I had someone tell me one time, if you make small changes often, you end up with a big outcome, right? Big change, right? So that's why at the beginning of the year, when everyone does all these resolutions, they don't work. And it's not that people don't have good intentions. It's just that you try doing it all at one time. It's like, okay, so one of the things that Shirley and I do is we look at people's lives. It's called the circle of personal perspective. And there's 6 areas in our lives, right? There's the relationships, our finances, our spiritual life, our physical wellness, emotional wellness, and then our professional life. Or did I say finance? Anyways, there's 6, right? And from those 6, you have to take a look at where you actually are in life, right? Where are you right now? Not where you should be or where you want to be, but where you actually are. And when you do that for each area, then you start thinking, okay, 1 year from now, where is it that I want to be in each of these areas? Then you take 1, maybe 2 of those areas, and you say, this is the highest priority. And you create a plan of how you're going to get there. You have to talk about what's going to prevent me from getting there.
Yes.
What are some of the things that have prevented me from achieving these goals in the past? Because you have to plan for that.
Yes.
Because they're not going to magically disappear. So you have to plan for it, right? And then you work on that area or areas. And once you are in momentum and you've developed some habits, then you move on to the next.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You do the same thing. And then you move on to the next. And you will be surprised within a year how transformed your life is, because you took that time to find out where I'm at in each of those areas in my life.
Yes.
And then you made a plan. Also need to be accountable to something. Right? Because that accountability piece is key, right? To keep, because we're going to have those days where, what's the point? Well, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, well, and you go through all of that. But if you have someone who's accountable, like a life coach, right? They're going to support you. They're going to be, okay, you can do this. Remember, we talked about this. We talked that this time is going to come where you're going to feel down. So let's implement what we said we were going to do during this time. And you walk through. You just walk through.
Yeah. No, I like the way you laid that out. The different categories or different areas. I reference it as the wheel of life. As yeah. And you got certain areas that need nourishment, like it's something that you're not getting and you don't really know what it is until someone does that with you. And I think we all need to go through that, like you said, at least once a year. What are you trying to work on? And do it in small batches. It's like curated information. People can't have a lot coming at them. That's like a setup for failure. So small curated information implemented over time adds up. There's a great saying that I learned related to it is, small hinges swing big doors. There's the 3 hinges. They're small, but look at how big the door is, and it can handle all that because it's a little at a time. And being able to look back at how far you've come, right? That's what we're in coaching. We always talk about journaling, right? So you can look back and see how far you've come. Because if you can't see that, you're like, well, this little thing I've been trying is not working. But look at all these other things you've done, and taking the time to appreciate and celebrate those, right? Like those little hinges. They're swinging, man. They're swinging, and it's good. Don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. We are like totally. You want it, like you said, accountability is so huge, right? And it's like, some people can do it on their own, and good to them. But if you really lean in and you ask questions, no one does anything in this world by themselves, right? Everybody catches a break. But
it's true.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you.
So all right, let's critter brain. So I've heard critter brain also referred to as the inner critic. So you said earlier, when the key thing is to be self-aware and notice it. And when you notice it, get curious with it and ask yourself questions, right? Why am I feeling this way? It's kind of like the emotional intelligence. What do I do with it? So going back to accountability, how is someone, if they are experiencing this constant critter brain and they can't turn it off, what other suggestions might you have that they do differently?
Okay. Well, we talked about identifying the different areas. We talked about separating facts from fiction. There's other simple things to do that we just think, oh, this is just But journaling, like what you were talking about earlier, taking that time to journal about your feelings and looking at what you're writing. So look back at it objectively. I remember doing this and looking at what I would write, and I was constantly writing about my problems, and I was just constantly, you know, kind of having a pity party for myself. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, wait a second. No, no, no. I got to change this narrative. Because the thing is, the way the brain works, as advanced as it is as a computer, like if you think of the brain as a computer, it's extremely advanced, but it's also extremely archaic. Right? And so it has what's called the RAS filter, the reticular activation system, which kind of separates all the information you get in a day. It keeps the important stuff and filters away the stuff that you don't need, right? Now, when you take a look at, when you start focusing on things, the RAS filter turns on and starts bringing stuff in, right? So, for example, if you purchased a new car, right, and you purchased the new red Toyota Corolla, all of a sudden you go out on the road and it's like, oh my gosh, everybody's got a Toyota Corolla.
Yes!
No, so it's always been there. It's just now you're aware of it. So when you become aware of the fact that you are giving yourself all these negative messages, now it's time to change the narrative, right?
That's the
when
word
you start
change the narrative.
Change the narrative. So when you start hearing yourself saying stuff like, I'm not good enough, it's like, oh, wait. What's going on here? Why am I feeling not good enough? What's happening, right? I am good enough. And change the narrative. Even if you believe it only this tiny little bit, keep saying it every day because it will grow. It's like a seed being planted. It will grow. Are you going to plant the seed of negativity, or are you going to plant the seed of positivity?
Yes.
Because the more you say, I am enough, I am more than enough, or I am beautiful, or I am intelligent, that RAS filter turns on and it finds the opportunities to confirm what it is that you're saying about yourself.
I love that.
Right? So if you constantly say to yourself, I suck, I'm not good at this, no, seriously, it's going to turn on and it's going to find opportunities to confirm that you suck. Yeah. Right?
Yes.
So you've got to change the narrative. Even if you only believe it this much, you got to change that narrative.
I love that. That's a great, everybody's getting that. You're getting a lot of love on that one. Like, good info, word. You're getting some hearts and heart faces.
It's called the RAS filter. For anyone who wants to look it up, RAS, R-A-S, the reticular activation system.
Love it. Okay, I'm writing that one down because I didn't know that one. There's a lot of stuff about the brain that you learn, but it's great if you, even if you're not into like neuroscience and how the brain works, it's fascinating to read stuff because you have so many ahas when you're reading stuff and go, oh, now I understand why I do that. Because if you don't understand why you do stuff, you just take it as, oh, that's who I am. That's just how I am. And you will
Yes. And that's why that awareness is so key.
Yes.
That's why it's so key.
So key.
Because, yeah. Like, it's not, I don't take the excuse, oh, well, my mom was like that and my grandmother was like that and my great-grandmother. We just always been that way. And does that mean that you have to continue that? You have a choice.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not saying that it's easy, but it's quite simple. You know, like just do the work.
Do the work.
And you get there.
Yeah. And
there is no difference. There's no difference between any of us or an Oprah Winfrey, for example. There's no difference in the terms of ability. It's just the way we think.
The way we think.
All starts with a thought.
It does. And you just love everything you're saying. I can't synthesize it, and I don't need to because you're doing a damn thing right by yourself. But you said like the thoughts, and one of the things that I'm learning and what I'm meditating on, like you said, going back to subconscious, 95% of our, from childhood, our emotions and behaviors are in our subconscious, our habits, things we want to change. And I have emotions that I'm trying to change. And so I'm learning to meditate differently. And outside of meditating specifically on this one emotion that I want to change. And outside of just meditating, going throughout the day And when I hear myself, when I notice, slowing down to notice that emotion coming up, like you said, getting curious, what does it feel like in my body? And when I feel it and the thoughts are coming with it, because I want to say that thing, yeah, I want to go off, just using the word change. Saying that, if you can say it out loud or say it inside, okay, well, then you feel it coming up in the thoughts. You know you don't want to feel that way or have that thought. Just saying change and shifts the dynamic, and then you literally are controlling your mind, and it's no longer controlling you, and you change. And I can say that confidently because I've now been doing that and saying change, and it's a distraction. It distracts me from finishing that thought and going elsewhere with a more positive thought, because I know where I was going and I stopped myself. But to your point, you have to be aware. You have to slow down enough, and it has to be conscious and focused, right, to do that.
As you were talking, two things came up for me. So one, your thoughts are going to influence your feelings.
Yeah.
Right? Feelings are going to influence your actions.
Yes.
Your actions are going to influence your destiny. Right? So that's why it all starts with a thought.
It all starts with a thought.
You change the thought, you change the destiny.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's one thing. The second thing is that with our feelings, with our emotions, they're very important to acknowledge. And the reason for that is because your feelings aren't good or bad.
Yes.
They are just there. They just are,
Yeah.
right? So when you can acknowledge the fact that I'm feeling this, what's going on for me? What's the thought behind this feeling, right? When you take the negative or the positive out of it and it just is, then it's just a feeling. What are you going to do about it, right? And being conscious about it, right? I know, for example, I'll give you a funny example. When I was in my early 20s, I experienced hangriness a lot, right? If I was hungry, if I was tired, I would be like a toddler, just open up, just, right? No, but and then at my mid-20s, late 20s, I realized, this isn't fair to everybody that's around me. That because I'm tired and I'm hungry, I just let everything up. That's not fair to people, right? And so I had to learn how to control that, right? So it's not that I get down on myself for not feeding myself on time or getting enough rest. It's like I acknowledge the fact that I didn't do what I needed to do to feel good, but how am I going to manage that so that I can be present with the people around me and have a pleasant exchange and pleasant experience? Yeah. So taking responsibility for yourself, right? And not blaming things on your feelings.
Yes, I like that one. Taking responsibility, not blaming things on your feelings. And you brought up a good point. Like, the feelings don't label them. That's, as humans, we created this label, good or bad, rich or poor, whatever. It is what it is. It's just like there's no bad experience or good experience. It's just an experience, and we're supposed to have them. I would add on to that is, when you're having those Debbie Downer moments, where's that coming from? That's coming usually from your past. Something that happened to you before, and it blocks your ability to stay in the moment, in the present. Because if everything is great, yes, the sun's not shining, but it's not raining, it's right now that's going on, I can choose to not have a sad care in the world. I can just appreciate the present, and that will let go of any fear that I have of the past or what's in front of me, if I'm more conscious and in the present. And if we can do that more as humans, we would have more joy and happiness and peace, because we're not anxious and fearful about something that might be, or something that was in the past and is already over with.
Yeah. Kenya, sometimes with when we have those Debbie Downer moments, part of the issue can be that we are comfortable in that.
You say it. Come on, tell me some more. Tell me some more.
So sometimes we have this problem or the concern or issue with that inner critic because we're comfortable in that Debbie Downer moment. We're comfortable in feeling sorry for ourselves. It takes work to get out of that. And it's a choice whether you're going to be happy or not with regards to whatever's going on in your life, right? Because everything in life is just perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly like what you said. There's no bad experience, there's no good experience, it's just your perspective of it, right? You may see something one way, I see it another way. It's the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
You're not wrong, I'm not wrong, it's just our perspective.
Yeah.
So when that inner critic is saying stuff to you and there's something going on, it's like, okay, what's another perspective I can take about this, right? It's interesting. Last week we were talking in our course, the Slay Your Inner Critic course, about changing thoughts, right? So we gave this example of someone who gave a talk. Person gave a talk, they felt that the talk went really poorly. Okay, so why did it go poorly? Well, people looked really bored. It's like, so what's the result? Well, I never want to talk again. Okay, let's change the perspective for a second. What's another reason? What's another way of looking at this? And they said, well, people might have been really interested and they were just concentrating. Okay, let's take a look at that. If they were really concentrating, what evidence do you have of that? Well, they were writing stuff down and they were looking at me. Okay, so then do you still believe then that people didn't like the talk? Well, no, maybe they did like the talk, but they were just concentrating. All right, so how can you get some evidence? Well, I could approach people and I could ask them what they thought, what they took away from.
Yes.
Boom.
Boom. Action.
Change the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
The perspective changed, right? So, and that, it seems like a tedious exercise at first, but eventually you get so good at it that it's just instant, right? First, you just have to, what's another way of looking at this?
Yes. I love that. And you were there for that person, but when you don't have that person, even though accountability is good, but when you're in the moment or you don't have that person, it's the self-coaching, right? Knowing the same questions you ask that person, learning how to ask the question, slow down, be okay with, you're going to ask yourself tough questions if you know what to ask. Coaches don't ask tough questions, they ask powerful questions because it's usually questions people don't ask you. They just agree with what you said and you keep on moving. But asking yourself those questions to help you change the perspective, because like you said, agreed, the brain is like a computer. It's always searching for information if you feed it the right questions. So you give it a question, it's gonna search till it finds an answer. It may or may not be the right answer, but there may not be a right answer. Okay, well, what else? Here's another one, until you run out. And then when you get stuck, bring somebody else in, like a coach, to ask those other questions you didn't ask before. So I totally love that real life experience. One other that I will add, that I've also recently learned that I'm doing in the way of journaling, I was on a Facebook discussion, and they were asking which comes first. We were talking about this last week, courage or confidence, and everybody's writing answers. And somebody had said, you have to have belief or something like that. And then what I was reading at the time, I actually took a picture of that section, and the person felt, this is Steve Chandler of Shift Your Mind, Shift the World. He said, he doesn't necessarily believe in, all that belief stuff. You got to put belief and thinking to the side for a minute and start doing, like we said earlier, and have the experience. Because when you start having the experience, you realize it's no longer belief because you know it to be true because you did it. So one of the things that he said was, every day where you can, write something that you did that you felt was an accomplishment, whether you closed the deal, you had a really good conversation with your manager, you turned something around, it was positive, you accomplished XYZ that you think you couldn't do, and write that down. And it's kind of your yes, I did it kind of journal. And so you write down whatever that is, and you're like, yes, I did that. So all those times when you're doubting your abilities, that you can't do that, and it's no longer, you know, believing, I got to believe in myself, you can know yourself, because you can look back and say, I did all of those things. And then you can go into the next experience like, I got this because I saw that I did these things. So I no longer have to believe. I know me based on the things that I have done. And if you don't need any other pep talk, you have your experiences to reflect and say, no, yes, I did that. And I'm going to do this too.
And you know what? I would take it even one
Go
step
ahead.
further. Even if there's something that you didn't get you did something and you didn't get the outcome you wanted, right? Some would call it failure. I don't call it that. What did you learn from
What
it?
did you learn from it?
What did you learn from it? Because then it's just an experience,
Yes.
right? You learn something, you can implement that into the next thing,
Yes.
because that also builds your confidence. The fact that you didn't get what you wanted, but you learned something from it, implemented it, that takes courage and
You're
confidence,
right. I
right?
love it. You're
Because when you look back at that and you say, that happened to me, but yet I still kept going.
Yes, yes, yes. I did that.
So I got
Yeah,
the thing.
I did that. And because you tried, you did not fail. You gave yourself the opportunity to have a lesson from it. Versus, well, I ain't trying that because when so and so did it, are you so and so? You know, like, have the courage to try it. Builds the confidence. So love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay, so we wrapping things up. So let's wrap this up. So I forgot to have you share in the beginning how we can reach you. But before you do that, tell us about your
Okay.
upcoming Slay Your Inner Critic. Talk to us about that. What's coming up?
All right, so September 12th, myself and Coach Shirley Brooks, we are going to be running the next session of the Slay Your Inner Critic. It's an 8-week intensive. Essentially, you're going to learn about communication with yourself as well as with others. You're going to learn a lot about self-awareness and how to become more self-aware. You're going to learn about your natural behavior tendencies and how to not judge yourself, but just to understand yourself, right? You're going to learn about forgiveness and fears, right? A whole lot of stuff. 8 weeks. It's a lot of emotional intelligence stuff in there. Everything I do. Where's my book? I have this with me almost everywhere. It's like my business
Yes,
Bible.
I have that
Emotional
one
intelligence.
too. Yes,
I love
I
it
love it
so much.
too.
It's so simple, but so powerful. And yeah, so it's 8 weeks. It's an amazing course. We tell people, don't be intimidated by the price point, because if the price is the only reason why you're not going to take the course, then you need to talk to us,
You heard
right?
that.
So it's 400 Canadian, but I think American it's like 250 or 275, something like that,
For 8 weeks,
US.
that's
Yes,
good. And
that's
is it
amazing.
like each day? How does it work? You go at your own self pace. How does it work for the 8 weeks?
So it's an online live, right? So every Saturday morning from 9 to 11, we meet for eight
Okay.
weeks. We record sessions because sometimes there might be one that you have to miss, right? But we do encourage you not to miss more than one class.
Awesome. Okay. So you guys heard it. Slay Your Inner Critic. 8 weeks, starts 9/12. How do we find out if we're interested? Research more to enroll. Where do we go?
You can email me at info@jenslay.com. You can go to my page on Instagram, at Coach Jen Slay. On Facebook, it is Jen Slay Visionary, and all the information is there.
Awesome. So we know how to reach her. You know about her upcoming course. And I'm just scrolling back up for just so we didn't miss anything in our engagement. We didn't get any particular questions, but just Instagram cuts off after a certain time. I have screen time and it cut off on me for a second. Sorry about that. So curated information, small hinges swing big doors, get a thumbs up. change the narrative. And you ended up saying that. We said this one before. Good info, word, Raz. God help me with my thinking. I love that one. Come on. So you were saying something. That person was resonating with that person. That takes discipline and responsibility. So something we were talking about, appreciating the present. So appreciate Lynn for her level of engagement as well. So Jen, and it's Jen with one in her her taglines and her handles. So Jen, Jen Slay, Slay, when you're looking her up. But I want to thank you for taking the time on a Saturday to come on and share your experience, your knowledge, your wisdom, in hopes that some people, one person, however many that see this now, have seen it or see it in the future, can take away a nugget and try it. Just try it. That's what builds the confidence of, yeah, I did that. Yes, I tried that. How about we say that? Yes, I did that by trying it.
You know, one last very simple thing, and you probably have heard this as well. Your positive affirmations, right?
Yes.
Positive affirmations, turn on that Raz filter every single day. So for example, if you want to say you want to believe I am intelligent, you look yourself in the mirror and you state it, I am intelligent. You tell yourself you are intelligent and then affirm it. Yes, I am intelligent.
Yes.
Do it every single day. You know, just even do a test. Do it for 30 days straight and see what happens in your life.
Yes. Yeah. You don't have anything to lose, right? It's another thing it's not scary. It's different, but you don't have anything to lose. So try it. Like, these are easy things done over time, become your mindset, your DNA, just what you are. And that's what we're all trying to do with the little things we're trying to change. So again, Jen, Coach Slay, I love that last name. Like, seriously. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for all of those who joined us and that will watch this later. And Jen, we will keep in touch. You know that, right? We will keep in touch.
Yes, thank you for having me so
You're
much.
very welcome. Enjoy the rest of the week. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.